The most important part of this project is that it's a community project involving not only the professionals in the museum service, but also army cadets who are representing their community, both in terms of the army community, but also the local Oxfordshire communities from which they come.
To the souls of the departed, Lucius Valerius Geminus, the son of Lucius of the Poliavolding tribe, from Forum Germanorum, veteran of the 2nd Augustan Legion, aged 50, lies here. His heir had this set up in accordance with his will.
So the first session at the Museum Research Centre will be to get them to draw the tombstone, to have some of the Latin translated for them, and just have a chance to touch it, and as I say, just to gain something of its significance.
Yeah, so the tombstone was found in 2003 in the Roman fort and small town of Alchester, which is just north of the small village Wendlebury and just south of Bicester in North Oxfordshire.
The Army Cadets understand not only its historical significance, but also its geographical and morphological location in the landscape. So what we'll be asking them to do using archaeological maps is to find the place where the tombstone was uncovered in 2003.
Excellent, so it's wood.
All right.
I think what's really interesting about the project is because we know the person the tombstone belonged to, obviously his name is on it, and we know a little bit about his life. I think that really connects people to that person who'd lived there and stayed in Britain after he left the army. So it gives a really sort of personal, interesting connection to something which is sometimes seems a little bit remote.
Yes. I was thinking like a war strategist. They don't really think of them as being...
Well, this is what's really exciting about the tombstone, is that we know a lot about the soldier. We know his name is Lucius Valerius. We know where he's from. We know he was born in the town of Forum Germanorum in northern Italy. We know that he served in the 2nd Augustan Legion. And he served his entire military career and retired as a veteran, so he served his 25 years. He fought for the people of Oxfordshire, he lived in Oxfordshire, he was an Oxfordshire soldier, and that there is a long history of this sort of memorial for soldiers who have lived and died for the people of Oxfordshire from the Roman period through to the present day.
We know because they're waterlogged and they still had their bark on it.
Yeah, so the gateposts were found in 2000 by the archaeologists working on site, and most Roman forts had big wooden gates at the front, and most of them don't survive because organic materials don't survive and rot away, but due to the high water table, the bases of those gateposts actually did survive in waterlogged conditions, and they managed to excavate those, and they were brought out and treated.
Yep, so these were the original gateposts of the fort, so what people would have walked through on their way to the fort, and we've actually got the gateposts.
So because they were waterlogged, when they dug them up, they realised that there was still bark on the outside, which means you can get tree ring dating from them. So that's what's so important about them, is the dating, and often the bark doesn't survive, so you can't get a very tight date. The whole field would have been completely occupied. The fort is sort of a rectangular playing card shape, so it would have fitted in the field, and you can still see the outlines of some of the buildings, sort of the lumps and bumps in the field that you can still see. So it would have been very organised. You'd have had barracks where the soldiers lived, mess hall, exercise yard where they would have been exercised, so all the space was taken up in a very efficient way.
You don't need to take advantage of the state.
We've got an exciting session which involves the members of the Ermine Street Guard telling them about the significance of the Romans in Britain. They've also got a lovely opportunity to observe our memorial sculptor carving some stone as a demonstration.
And another pattern as a border. You see it's thinner there than it is there. Now that's a characteristic of classical Roman lettering. Yes, I'm a stone carver and letter cutter and sculptor in stone, and I live and work fairly close to Woodstock, where the project has been initiated. I guess I've been asked to take part because of my ability and my interest in historical carving. It's remarkable that the techniques haven't really changed at all over 2,000 years. The Romans used hammer and chisel to carve inscriptions and to shape stone, and we still use the same techniques today, other than we now use tungsten chisels, which are hardened and don't need a lot of sharpening, whereas the Romans had iron chisels, which would have taken a lot of sharpening and needed a lot of attention. Changed a bit now, last of all, if we've got time. Carving is a very, very skilled job, but in terms of lettering, there may not have been an awful lot of lettering to do, so a stonemason would have had to turn his hand to many different tasks. For instance, building Hadrian's Wall, where the stones would have had to be shaped before they were built into the wall, and also to the guards' turrets and so on along the length of it. It's understood that as a relatively lowly craftsman, the Roman stone carver may have been illiterate, so he may have been carving lettering, but he may not have been able to read what he was carving.
They'll be heading off to the Oxfordshire Museum here in Woodstock to have a look at some of the displays there, the Roman displays there, and again just to deepen their understanding of the historical context in which this really important memorial stone is based.
An idea for a memorial of the soldiers of Oxfordshire. I feel like an angel.
We're going to be looking for what is it that you've all got in common?
The third session in some ways is the most important, because from everything that they've learned in the previous days, they have to give their ideas to Alec and convince him about why their ideas about memorials and commemoration should be included in his final memorial design. The main elements of that is that the cadets and Alec will be recreating a mock-up of a new memorial, and there'll also be an opportunity on that session for them to handle some real Roman artefacts as well.
That's yours. Do you want to touch something that's nearly 2,000 years old?
Yeah, after looking at lots of different memorials and stuff, I've managed to get more ideas.
It's important for young people to get involved in projects like this, because then they can understand about things like the soldiers in Oxfordshire.
We could have asked Alec Peever, the memorial sculptor, to go away and do this project himself, but a significant part of it, underlying it, is the involvement of the young people, of the army cadets, and that's a signal that perhaps all projects like this should involve young people, because these are very much projects for the future. Alec and myself and the others taking part, the other adults taking part, we may not be around, but in terms of using an object which is 2,000 years old to inspire young people now, there's more chance of it resonating in the future, both with them and with other people.
To build a memorial for servicemen and women that have died, to honour our country.
What I would like you to do now, I would like you to draw.
I think it's important for people because it builds a sense of character and judgment and a general understanding for what people have done for the good of others.
Well, it's good to remember because then it's like the person's life isn't wasted.
I'm probably going to take away a lot of good memories of getting muddy, cooperation with friends, and a general sense of accomplishment.
And a sense of achievement, like I've made something that people will look at for generations and generations.
To build a memorial for servicemen and women that have died, to honour our country.